ladies and gentlemen, I go by the name of William, and this is my top 10 list of the best Japanese films that I've seen thus far. So without further ado, let's begin with number 10. Nobody Knows, directed by Hirokazu Koreeda and based on a true story. This was a truly gripping film for me. We follow a parentless family of kids who have no choice but to grow up fast in a small Tokyo apartment when their mother chooses to leave them to pursue a love interest. She occasionally sends some money back to support them, but what they really need is her, in person. The film can get under your skin, with a seesaw of emotions along the way, not to mention it being a window into Japanese culture, in that you can get a unique perspective through this story and how it contrasts the lives of these kids to the other, more fortunate ones. You're going to get some themes of humanity coming in, selfishness, melancholy, and a glitter of hope. So if you haven't seen it, and you're new to Japanese cinema, I highly recommend it. Please check it out. Coming in at number 9, we have Shohei Imamura's Ballad of Narayama, and I just want to start this one off by saying how strikingly dedicated the actress Sumiko Sakamoto was in her performance in this. The entire cast even had a breathtaking performance that had me close to tears in both laughter and in sadness. It's a tale of Japanese village tradition, where the mother of two sons, both sons being quite the opposite, spends her last few days in a village before being willingly brought to the overlooking mountain to have the same fate of the family's ancestors. A film that taps into raw emotion of what it is to be a family and the idea of death. It's assisted by these primal and animalistic shots of wildlife. It's certainly a spectacle not to miss. Highly recommend it. So for my number 8 spot then, I have given it to the very deserving Akira, a revolutionary anime to say the least. It stands as my definitive answer to give to someone when they say that animation is just for children. It is such a groundbreaking film on so many levels. Literally groundbreaking, right? Anyway, set in Neo-Tokyo 30 years post-World War III, the future's looking quite bleak and unstable for good old Tokyo, especially when there's these visceral, action-packed races and conflict depicted in high gore, but just the right amount of ambiguity around themes such as abuse of power and humanity. Not to mention it's probably the most fantasized and talked about anime outside of Studio Ghibli's films. Good job Katsuhiro Otomo, who got his 2,000 page manga into a 2-hour film. But surely you've heard of Tetsuo, right? Or have you been living under a rock?
Just die already!
Let's quit while we're ahead, shall we? Number 7. 7 being an infamous number on this list. I'm afraid there's no coincidence. You're gonna have to wait. I have given the 7th spot to Studio Ghibli's in Takahata's Grave of the Fireflies, which is set in World War II Japan. This is an anime for the ages. Seita, the big brother, and Tsuko, the little sister, are trapped and scraping for survival in amongst the food rationing, enemy attacks, and even more trials that haunt them through this journey as war ongoes. I hope this film very personally. The age gap that Seita and Tsuko actually hold is about the same as I share with my little sister. So I made sure that she sat down too and watched it, and like me, she hasn't regretted it. It's a truly emotionally empowering and gripping film, so if you haven't seen it, please do yourself a favour and watch it. Coming in at number 6 then, we have our first Akira Kurosawa appearance on the list, and certainly not the last however. with this film being what some may consider his most accessible, Seven Samurai. It has such a compelling but simple plot. Some poor villagers recruit 7 samurai to defend their village against bandits. Deeper undertones occur, however, especially with Toshiro Mifune's character and his development into the story. The entire film, front to back, is truly a work of cinematic art that's so influential. Even to this day, you won't be disappointed if you decide to give this film a go. I especially recommend it if you're looking for an introduction into the films of Kurosawa. And if you have seen it, feel free to check out the conversation that I did with Thomas on his channel also, which I will link in the description. Beginning the bottom end of the list at number 5, we have Kon Ichikawa's The Burmese Harp, which is arguably one of the most thought-provoking and enlightening films that are on this list. It follows the existential transition of a Japanese soldier shaping himself into a Buddhist monk at the end of the war, taking on the responsibilities and overall clarity of his new position. A truly beautiful and breathtakingly serene film that isn't afraid to shine light on the fallacies of war and what it destroys and degrades. Another highly recommended film for me. Truly eye-opening. Check it out. Number 4. We have Akira Kurosawa once again, under a different title. This time, I have to give this spot to Ran. What a journey it is to see this film. By the end of it, you may feel as drained as Lord Ichimonji, the elderly protagonist who steps down off the throne for his chosen son, out of 3 total sons that he has, to step up and take his place. Corruption, lies, jealousy are primary themes that are inescapable for this protagonist, as well as his haunting past. I love the use of dreams and nightmare in particular to represent his guilty conscience. It's such a massive feat for filmmaking and a pleasure to even get to watch this film. It really resonates with you, as time goes on, and that raw emotion, the performances, the great directing and monumental filmmaking and all certify this as a classic that I think everyone should be forced to see. Coming in at number 3, once again, we have the top half being dominated by Akira Kurosawa. I want to give this spot to Redbeard, a film that marks an unforgettable final to his and Mifune's partnership. Redbeard is an exploration of mental illness, sickness, death, greed, tragedy, but human beauty from the soul that I don't think anyone else could have captured.
どうだ? 手に負えません。診察もさせませんし、薬を与えようとすると跳ね抜けるんです。どれ、わしがやってみよう。
Or still could capture. It's the first time in a film that I've ever seen this sort of raw love, so visceral, through the actions of the characters and how this darkness swallows them, but they still maintain that most beautiful piece of themselves, and that spoke to me greatly. It takes place in a charity hospital that is run none other by Redbeard, played by Mifune, who takes an intern under his wing. It's such a philosophical film too. I think it will have no choice but to remain timeless for me because of its everlasting effect. It had me speechless. So now that we are down to our last 2, and I haven't mentioned Rashomon yet, I guess it's time to say that coming in at number 2, Akira Kurosawa, welcome back yet again. It wasn't too hard to tell that he'd be back, I'm sure. But let's talk about Rashomon and why I think it's slightly better than Ran, Redbeard and Seven Samurai, or at least ranks a bit higher. Which is some statement, I know, especially coming from someone who hasn't seen all of Kurosawa's films, sure. But from all that I've seen, Rashomon remains to be my definitive Kurosawa film that I think captures a remarkable story, sees Kurosawa at the height of his directing and filmmaking, is similar to Seven Samurai in how it is simple, but it just meets in the middle from all of Kurosawa's strengths as a filmmaker and draws upon them to achieve something that you wouldn't think was possible for 1950. Ahead of its time was an understatement, and still is. It's also has that humanity element that Redbeard so strongly has. It's touched upon, towards the end with questions about morality and difference between what's right and what's wrong. It even has that emotional attachment with a film like Ran. This is my second favourite Japanese film of all time. And finally, at number 1, the long awaited. Even though in a list like this, order isn't really that important. If you want me to rank them, I have to put this at number 1. Or should I say these? Because I am referring to a trilogy, which I consider to be my favourite trilogy across world cinema and genre. The Human Condition. Life-changingly powerful set of films that would easily pry out emotion out of the most manly of men. It's a study of human life and its differences and its darkness. I can't say I was completely the same person when I started the trilogy. By the time it was finished, I was lost for words and just in awe at what I had seen. It was kind of like a UFO that suddenly came down, and you see it, you want to tell people, but they won't understand or they won't get it, or they won't want to. Some won't give it a chance, some fear it. That's the only analogy I can draw from this. It certainly isn't for everyone, but I am grateful for the opportunity to have seen it. It was more than a film in the end. It was more of a journey and a message for the viewer, to almost let you in on a secret. It was addressing the elephant in the room no other film would or could, for that matter. Films. You can also hear a 1 hour long discussion on the trilogy between me and Thomas, which is on this channel too. Again, I will be providing a link for that in the description for you if you wish to go see it. But I would recommend, and I have to do my duty to tell you to first watch this film, watch this trilogy. It will be hard to watch, and will have its slower moments as well, but it all builds up in the end, and just have to give it your best attempt in watching it, because when you get that feeling that it gives you, it's all been worthwhile in the end. So thank you very much for listening to me for the past 10 minutes or so, and that is all. Pardon the slip-ups and all that, and thank you, Thomas, for having me on this channel once more. I'm looking forward to our future discussions. Thanks again, everybody. Peace.